if you diet, you lose weight, right?
For many of us, we can go on a diet, something like The Biggest Loser, right? You go and you restrict people, you make them work out for 10 hours a day, and then you feed them 500 calories. For most people, they will acutely lose weight. But 96% of those participants in The Biggest Loser regained their weight because their brain worked well. It was supposed to bring them back to store what they needed or what the brain thinks it needs.
So willpower,
Throw that out the window.
60 Minutes had a fascinating segment on the fairly new weight loss drugs Ozempic and Wegovy, and they had a few prominent physicians on to explain how they exactly work. These new generation anti-obesity medications have produced weight loss of 15 to 20% in clinical trials, representing a clear advance from previous generation medications. This 60 Minutes video generated a lot of debate, and some physicians have called the segment a long-form advertisement for these new weight loss drugs. I've actually linked the full video below, and you should definitely give it a watch. Today, we're going to talk about obesity, the history of drugs to treat it, and the impact of these new drugs, Ozempic, Wegovy, and others, on patient and physician behavior, and how pharmaceutical companies are using business strategies to help shape this behavior. Obesity is associated with at least $174 billion in annual excess healthcare spending, with the highest excess expenditures occurring once people reach their 60s. So in this video, we'll also discuss the monetary impact as well, for payers and for the broader healthcare system. If that sounds interesting to you, please be sure to leave a like on this video. And without further ado, let's dive in. What's up everyone, I hope you're doing well. If you're new to the channel, my name is Chirag Lathia and I make videos on life science and business topics. In the United States, obesity rates have tripled since the 1980s, affecting people of all ages and demographic groups. To understand the reasons behind this trend, we must first examine the root causes of obesity in America. One hypothesis suggests that the introduction of high fructose corn syrup in the 1970s, coupled with the misguided belief that fat and cholesterol were the primary culprits of unhealthy foods, has led to an exposure problem that would promote addictive eating habits. Over the years, drug companies have tried to offer solutions for the obesity epidemic in the form of various medications, but their effectiveness and safety have often been called into question. The history of drugs to treat obesity is a rocky one, characterized by a series of ineffective and sometimes dangerous treatments. During the 1930s, the use of dinitrophenol in diet pills was widespread, and it was touted as a miracle weight loss drug. However, this compound was quickly discontinued by the FDA as toxic when it was found to cause severe side effects, including cataracts. Later on, amphetamines became popular for weight loss. However, the risk of addiction and other side effects, such as heart palpitations and insomnia, soon became apparent. Ephedra, a herbal medicine containing a substance very similar to amphetamines, was another popular weight loss treatment that was banned in the US in 2004, after it was linked to heart attacks and strokes. More recently, two other weight loss treatments, rimonabant and sibutramine, were withdrawn from sale after concerns about their safety. Okay, so we briefly talked about obesity and its many causes, and the history of all these obesity drugs that have tried and failed to enter this market. Now let's switch gears and talk about these new drugs, Ozempic, Wegovy, and Mounjaro. These three medications are all injectable, and they work by increasing insulin secretion and blood sugar disposal, thus improving glycemic control. Mounjaro actually has a slightly different molecule, but has a similar end goal. They have been shown to be very effective in helping people lose weight, but they're also quite expensive and do have side effects like nausea, constipation, and diarrhea. Additionally, long-term side effects continue to be investigated, but I do want to call out that there is a black box warning, which is FDA's strictest warning that they can provide, that these drugs have a risk of thyroid C-cell tumors based on a rodent study.
I've always heard that it's the fast food, that it's the Diet Cokes, that kind of thing, that is the instigator. Is that true?
So I think we have to look at the different causes of obesity as a big pie, and that's one factor. But notice how I'm using this part of the pie, right? But the number one cause of obesity is genetics. That means if you are born to parents that have obesity, you have a 50 to 85% likelihood of having the disease yourself, even with optimal diet, exercise, sleep management, stress management.
So earlier in this video, we established that obesity is clearly a disease that has many causes. I do, however, find it quite interesting that physicians in the 60 Minutes video cite genetics as the key factor for obesity. There definitely is a need to destigmatize obesity, and this is one way to accomplish this. Additionally, if there is a way to characterize obesity primarily as a disease rather than a circumstance of self-control, then it's also easier to make the argument to prescribe products for it. This is where the business of market access strategies can come into play with drugs like this. So when you launch a new pharmaceutical product, there are typically 3 common reasons why you might miss expectations post-launch. The first reason could be limited market access. So a lack of coverage, use of formulary restrictions like step edits on your product, high patient cost sharing due to unfavorable placement on formulary, etc. The last 5 to 10 years has shown that successfully bringing a drug to market has been really difficult. Pricing for these products has become more controlled and value-based as healthcare costs have increased across the board. The estimated price of semaglutide after rebates of $14,000 per year has resulted in concerns that payers may not be able to cover this new medicine. And as a result of that, patients may not be able to afford these new medicines without coverage. Although some state Medicaid programs and private payers cover anti-obesity medications, the Medicare program is actually prohibited by law from covering prescriptions for weight loss. Although if it was prescribed for a condition like diabetes, then it would be covered. Under a hypothetical scenario in which all beneficiaries with obesity use semaglutide for weight loss, ignoring any other indications for its use, the cost would exceed the entire Part D budget and would be greater than total excess healthcare spending associated with obesity for people of all ages. And so the price of semaglutide will be a major sticking point as it continues to expand into broader markets. I would not be surprised if payers limit access to preserve their budget. This would unfortunately negatively impact the drug's broad success. The second reason why drugs fail is an inadequate understanding of market needs. These companies might underestimate the difficulty of converting customers, which are prescribers and patients, from existing therapies to these new products. Concerns regarding medication use for cosmetic purposes, stigma against people with heavier bodies, and a long history of post-marketing withdrawals for weight loss medications because of serious side effects make patient education in this field an uphill battle. There have actually been some really unique ways that companies are learning to get around this stigma. Weight Watchers, which has been in the weight loss business since the 1960s, has bought Sequence, which is a telehealth subscription service that connects patients to doctors who can prescribe weight loss drugs and diabetes drugs. As of 2018, Weight Watchers was the most widely used commercial diet in the world, and Weight Watchers is actually listed as #1 in the US News rankings for weight loss and best commercial diets. And so the brand cachet of Weight Watchers will help provide credibility to these new drugs and will help these products find the right market of patients that are motivated for weight loss as they enter this market. This acquisition represents a very interesting brand collaboration between telehealth companies and overall wellness companies. And I actually spoke about this topic of wellness and telehealth collaborations in my Amazon One Medical acquisition video, which I'll link above. So the third and last reason why these products fail is really poor product differentiation. So either the product's proposition didn't offer a compelling enough value, or the formulation that was created by the product did not offset any additional clinical benefit. And this is all within the customer's view. So the Institute for Clinical and Economic Review, also known as ICER, which is a nonprofit health tech assessment organization based in the US, recently evaluated the cost effectiveness of a lifetime of use of semaglutide and 3 other anti-obesity medication regimens for a 45-year-old patient compared with lifestyle modification alone. They ultimately found that semaglutide was not cost effective. And this estimate reflects changes in life expectancy and quality of life associated with improved daily functioning and reduced risk of diabetes and cardiovascular outcomes. According to ICER, the annual $14,000 price of semaglutide would need to decrease to about $7,500 to $9,700 for the drug to be cost effective compared to lifestyle modification alone. Although it may not be cost effective from a healthcare utilization standpoint, I would bet that if you ask people if they wanted to lose 15 to 20% of their body weight, they would certainly be interested. So regardless, I certainly think that the value proposition for these new drugs are quite strong. It's important that we distinguish between the clinical benefit from the customer's perspective versus the healthcare perspective, since the vast majority of patients will be the one to request products like this based on their personal needs. And so to recap, we talked about obesity, the history of these drugs in the space, these new drugs that just came out, and the business and economic side of these products. With that said, let's get a good discussion going in the comments below. Let me know what you think about this video on these new weight loss drugs. I will read all your comments and reply. Please also consider sharing this video with a friend if you learned something new. I've also placed a few links down below with my favorite services that I use on a daily basis. And if you would like to support the channel, you can certainly click through those. If you've enjoyed the content and made it this far, please subscribe if you haven't yet. With that said, thank you so much for watching and see you soon.